Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Well, and welcome to this episode of our program. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle. Today we have with us Mike Shelah with Mike Shelah Consulting. Welcome to the program, Mike.
Mike, happy to be on here. I have to say I love your first name.
Yes, it is pretty good, isn't it? We share something in common already. Hey, so tell us a little bit about your background, what you focus on, and how you got into the industry that you are currently in.
All right. I have been in technology sales since 1999, and the last time that the economy took a downturn, I noticed that while the economy started to recover, being a salesperson, the recovery process was much longer. It was much more difficult to get in contact with clients and to get meaningful meetings and to set up meetings where I was something other than just another bid. And I started to use LinkedIn at the suggestion of a friend of mine who's a bit of a social media icon here in Baltimore. And like many people, I set up my profile, but I didn't do much with it. Slapped together a few comments, put a profile picture on there, and didn't do much with it. One day, I needed to find out more information about a potential client, and while I was doing some research online, his LinkedIn profile showed up, and I looked at it, and I'm like, wow, there's all this great information about this guy, and he had a connection to somebody that I knew really well. I picked up the phone and said, hey, Bob, I'm researching this guy, Mark Smith, and he's a good potential client for me. And I saw him on LinkedIn, and I noticed that the two of you were connected. How do you know him? Would you mind introducing me? And he tells me how he knows him. He's like, yeah, Mike, I'll do anything for you. Be happy to do it. And I ended up getting the meeting and ended up making the guy a customer. And that is really the essence of LinkedIn and why it's so valuable, not just to salespeople, but to any business professional that's looking to take that next step forward in their career.
So you saw this person's profile and picked up the phone and called your friend when you saw you guys were connected.
Yes. And that's the first thing that I tell people to do is to keep that social construct of social selling in place, meaning, can you send a message? Sure, you can send a message. But particularly if it's somebody that you know well, pick up the phone and ask some questions. Well,
and the other win with that, which I'm sure you intend as well, but I would say you are really accomplishing two things. You're reconnecting with someone you may have not connected with in a while anyway.
Yes.
Shooting the breeze, connecting, catching up. How's it going? Hey, listen, the reason for my call is I notice you're connected with, I'd love to meet this person, and then you're then being introduced to this new person. But what are your thoughts on the aspect of reconnecting with connections when you're doing that, which is a whole lot more personal than just shooting off a LinkedIn request?
That's a great point. When I do my seminars, I've come up with several ABCs for LinkedIn. Everybody knows the always be closing, and I say that's about the worst thing that you can try to do as a business professional. When you work through the sales process properly, there is no close. You get to the end, and the customer is in mutual agreement with you that this is the best thing for their business, and they sign the paperwork. That's the close, quote unquote. But what you just described is what I call the ABC of always be cultivating. When people build up these massive LinkedIn profiles, and I know people that they think it's bragging rights. I have 20,000 connections. I have 10,000 connections. And that's great. I encourage people to get lots of connections. I myself have 3,000. The important part is the cultivating, the connecting, the engagement. You plant that seed. You meet someone at a trade show. You meet someone at a business meeting. You meet someone at a cocktail party. You plant that seed, and then you cultivate the seed. When they share relevant content you find interesting on LinkedIn, you engage, and you share that content. they have a job anniversary, or they have a birthday, or they got a new job, you reach out and you engage with my next ABC, which is I call always be customizing. LinkedIn has all of these generic pre-filled responses. Yeah, I'd like to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn, or hey, congrats. They have all these standardized messages. Wipe that out and customize it, and that helps you cultivate. And like you said, by reconnecting with that person, I'm cultivating and I'm making a bond stronger.
Yeah, and I attended a LinkedIn training a few years ago where that one thing is stuck in my mind, which is don't just click the connect button and have that stock message, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn, that LinkedIn puts in there. And I think they've changed it to where you actually have to click one extra place or dig just a little bit more to actually customize that, because in some of maybe the phone apps where if you hit connect, it just sends that anyway. So I think that it really comes off a whole lot more personable when you are saying, hey, nice to connect with you last night at the chamber meeting, love to connect with you here on LinkedIn, or hey, it was a whatever. So where do you go to make sure that you are not just sending that stock message and that you're able to stand out a little bit more by personalizing it?
Yep. On a PC or a laptop, it's pretty easy. You when you go to do the connection request, you see a nice big text box. You can just delete the standard greeting and customize it. You're right, with your apps, whether it's on a tablet or on a smartphone, it's a little trickier, and they're not terribly clear about this. But if you're on your LinkedIn app on your smartphone and you're looking at someone's profile, you'll see the connect button. And in the top right-hand corner, you'll see three very small gray dots that give you additional options. And there's 3 or 4 options in there, and one of them is customize your greeting. For example, let's say that you and I are connected on LinkedIn, and I come across a profile that I think is someone you want to talk to. I can click those 3 little dots, and then I can forward that person's profile to you. And it allows me to customize a greeting in there as well and say, hey, Mike, I found this guy's profile on LinkedIn. I think he's a good client for you. Let me know if one of my contacts can help you get in front of him. But that's where you go. That's where the magic happens. Those 3 great little dots in the top right-hand corner
of your profile.
Yep, on the app. On the app on your smartphone.
Oh, on the app. Okay. And then at that point, is that just each and every connection request, or does that set kind of a template for everyone moving forward?
You customize it every time because it's always going to default back to the generic.
Got it. Okay. And in reality, you should customize it every time, because did you meet Betty at the chamber function or Joe at the grocery store or whatever the case is?
Or are you reconnecting with Bob from high school or Mary from college?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And, I find myself kind of, since we know this, and that is something that really, I find that it sets apart someone in a negative way if I get a LinkedIn request and it just says, I'd like to add you to my LinkedIn network. And many times I will hit reply back and say, hey, nice to see you. What specifically in my profile attracted you to want to connect?
Boy, you are a 1%er, Mike.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I get a response, and most of the time you don't hear a response back. But I think that the problem with some of the automation apps out there is you load in all of your email addresses that you've ever sent an email to, and it sends that kind of thing out. So I think you have to be really careful with automation. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. When you frequently on LinkedIn, they will send you a message saying, hey, would you like us to access your email? And I was, no, thank you. Because I have people that I've literally gotten one email from because they were on a chain with me.
Yep.
Would I like to connect with them eventually? Yeah, sure, but I'd like to also have a good reason. And oftentimes these people won't remember who I am. And that's something to be very cautious of, because with LinkedIn, if you send too many connection requests, and too many people say they don't know you, what's called an IDK in the LinkedIn world, LinkedIn will block your profile and restrict your ability to connect with others.
And there's no set number of that. It's just LinkedIn wants you to know that so that you don't do it.
Yes, they don't tell you if you have 5 violations or 10 violations. You just, if then whatever their requirements are on their end, if you hit that requirement, then they will restrict you. They'll send you a message telling you that you've been restricted.
And is that for a period of time or forever?
It's for a period of time. It happened to me probably about 6 years ago before I really understood all the ins and outs of LinkedIn. And I think I got full privileges back after 30 days or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, they just throttle you back.
Yep.
Well, I think that there's 10,000 tips like that we can keep in mind. What would you say is something that sets you apart from other coaches and consultants that train on LinkedIn?
The biggest
that little tip right there, you can Google that one, right?
Yep. Yeah. The biggest difference I have seen is many of the LinkedIn trainers out there right now are what I call academics. And they don't necessarily practice what they preach. They have very sound theories, but they never give concrete examples of practical use. And I just had a great one last week. I have a day job. I work for a technology company where I specifically work with colleges and universities. And one of the schools on my deck of accounts that my manager had given me, somebody I had no connection to, at least not the proper department I would normally go through. And I looked up key contacts within the school, and I found that the vice president of the school, I had 5 mutual contacts with him. And I reached out to a few of them and asked about getting in front of him. And one of them responded back, said, "Hey, Mike, I don't really know him. We just connected on LinkedIn." And I said, "Would you mind introducing me? Because you know him better than I do." And she said, "Okay." She did a standard Barry meet Mike, Mike meet Barry. And I responded, "Gloria, thank you for the kind introduction. Barry, would you have time for a brief phone call Monday morning around 10:30? And he responded, "Sure, you can call me at this number at this time." And I had my phone conversation with him, and it lasted about 10, 15 minutes. And he said, "All right, Mike, here's what you do. I'm not the person to help you with this, but if you send me an email describing specifically what you can do to benefit my school, I will put it in the hands of the person that would make that decision, and they will get back to you." And those are the kind of wins that you're looking for, because if I had just called this guy and left his voicemail messages, I would never have gotten through. Maybe if I harassed him for a week or two, maybe. But that's not really a great way to build business.
Yeah, I think the other aspect is what you touched on, which is the research, where back in Sales Training 101 days, you would be taught to go into that person's office if and when you actually got an appointment, right? And then while the secretary's getting him or water or coffee for you, you're looking around the office going, "Hey, he likes golf, he likes sailing, he likes or she likes." Well, now with LinkedIn especially, you can take a look at all of the interests, the groups you share, the friends you know together, and that research becomes super invaluable because you're not trying to figure out on the fly, you're doing it ahead of time.
Yes, I had a situation a couple of years ago where I was doing a conference call with the director of IT for a big spice company here in Maryland. And I had gotten her because she's cousins with somebody that I know very well, and I found her on LinkedIn. Same story I just told you, just a different positive ending. And when I looked at her profile under interests, it said Rock Band, the video game. And when we got on the conference call, we had a couple minutes. We were waiting for a couple other people to jump on the call. I said, "Mary, I have to ask you. I saw on your profile that you play Rock Band. You have to tell me how that came about." And she started talking about it, and she had bought it for her grandchildren and really loved playing it. Then I confided that I love playing it. I play it with my son all the time. We talked about our favorite songs, and because it was a very authentic and genuine inquiry, it set the tone.
Yeah. And you didn't come off as a salesperson, it came off genuine.
Yes. Authenticity. That really is the key component to successful sales today. And LinkedIn really helps you leverage what you have to be sincere about.
So if you are, let's shift gears into thinking about that salesperson that is looking to connect with their specific target audience. And most of the time, salespeople have a specific target audience. So, like in your case, you would target a certain, as a salesperson, a certain target audience. But what would you advise people if they have, let's say, two target audiences, like your product or service could help any or all small business owners, but it also could help, educational institutions. Well, would you want to be able to, when people come to your LinkedIn profile, and let's say that you're active in a group, you want when people click on your profile to go, who is this guy? You want them to see right away that what you do speaks to that group without excluding the other. So as an example, what if you said, I specialize solely in educational institutions and I help them with fill in the blank. And then if you were at a chamber function and you've had some business owners, which you can easily help them too, and they come to your LinkedIn profile, they immediately are turned off because they say, well, I'm not an educational institution, but yet laser focusing a target audience and really speaking to them and resonating with them so that they get it and see it is a big benefit there. So how do you straddle that fence and walk that line of being, really laser targeted, but then not excluding another segment?
It's a lot simpler than most people think. One of my big things is think keywords, not buzzwords. And when you create your profile, there are several key points in your profile that you want keywords. And you can agree with this. I'm sure you've seen this before. People write that they're a dynamic, seasoned, professional team player. Great. So is everybody else. Don't put that in your headline. Don't put that in your summary. Don't put that in your job description. Don't put those words anywhere because people don't search them.
Yep.
Think about what are the keywords that your customer would look up to find you. Come up with a list of about 20 words. Then when you talk about two industries, as you just described, education and the small business owner, find the words that overlap. If you come up with 20 for education and you come up with 20 for small business, the likelihood is you're going to find 5 to 10 that overlap because of the product that you are providing. And those are the ones you want to lead with. You want to put the other ones conversationally throughout your profile, but you want to lead with those 10 that speak to both audiences. And that way neither feels excluded.
And when you say lead with, you mean include that in your summary description on your LinkedIn profile.
You want it in your summary, but you want it right at your headline. If you're looking at your profile, you've got your profile picture there on the left, and I'll keep this short. Spend the money and go get a professional headshot done. Don't have your brother, your sister, your son, or your daughter take the picture or selfie. Go get a professional headshot. It's the best $100 you'll ever spend. Right next to that professional headshot is your headline. Now, by default, LinkedIn puts in the job title for your most recent job. But that is an editable field with 120 characters. If you read mine is a group of keywords. There's no appropriate commas, there's no phrasing, there's no terms. They're keywords that people that I want to do business with would search.
And so you're taking that approach as opposed to having an actual title like, small business consultant or educational institution coaching, expert, things like that.
Correct.
And
now, if you happen to think that your clientele will search the term small business consultant or educational expert, then those are great keywords, and you might want to include them. But you have 120 characters. Use all 120. Get as many as you can in there.
Yeah, really good point. Yeah. Good. So, what about the concept of too many people? And we've touched on this, but just kind of wrapping this all up in a nice bow. How can people make that kind of force themselves into not hiding behind their social media profiles and just clicking to connect or clicking to ask to connect to someone that you have in common? How can someone use social media like LinkedIn as a way to enhance what they should be already doing in person?
I think the two really go hand in hand. We had a kickoff meeting for my company a couple weeks ago, and my manager asked me to conduct a LinkedIn training. And I presented to a group of about 50 people that day, all my coworkers, many of which I had never met before because my team covers Richmond, Virginia, all the way up to Dover, Delaware. So it's a big territory. Most of us don't see each other on a regular basis. This annual kickoff meeting is the one place where we all come together once a year. And while I knew many of the names of the people, I had not met them. I had not had that face-to-face. And after having that face-to-face, I reached out to several. Hey, Tony, it was great meeting you at the kickoff meeting. Hey, Mary, great that we had a chance to work together in that team-building workshop. And I'm engaging that way. And to your point, if you see that somebody is a fellow member of a chamber of commerce and you think that they're a really great connection, if you're going to break LinkedIn's rule and reach out and connect with someone, start with that common ground. Hey, Bob, I saw that you're a member of the Fill in the Blank Chamber of Commerce. I've served on their board of directors for the last 3 years. Will you be at the networking breakfast on Thursday morning? If so, I'd love to meet you face-to-face.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just a matter of forcing yourself to do that.
Yes. Taking that time. And, again, if you have that common ground, then there's nothing insincere. There's nothing salesy about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a heck of a lot easier to do. LinkedIn also gives you a couple great ways to talk to people without actually sending them a connection request. If you have a paid account, you can use LinkedIn's in-mail program where you can directly message up to 5 people a month to ask them a variety of topics, and allows you to have an exchange back and forth. You do that for 5 people a month with a basic paid account, which is what I have. In addition to that, anyone that you share a group with, and you can join up to 100 groups on LinkedIn now. Anybody that you share a group with, you can go to their profile through the group, and there is a message button, and it allows you to message up to 15 people through groups every month.
And then that bypasses having to send in the request and hope they accept it and then message them. So being a member of those groups together gives you some commonality too.
Yeah, and particularly if you're pursuing somebody that is, say, an alumni of your college or an alumni of your fraternity or sorority, or they're in the LinkedIn group that's for your local church or your local community, you know that you have a very concrete connection to this person, and you dramatically raise the likelihood that they're going to respond because they're going to see what group they share with you when they get the message.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Super. Well, hey, if people want to learn a little bit more about your programs, where's the best way that they can reach out to you?
Naturally, I am on LinkedIn.
Hey.
You can also find me at my website, which is www.mikeshelah.com, MikeShelah.com. You will find me on Twitter at Mike Shelah. You will find me on Instagram at Mike Shelah. You will find me on Facebook, Mike Shelah Consulting. And for your listeners today, 2 little promotions that hopefully go a long way to help them. First, anybody that goes to my website can sign up for a free 3-page LinkedIn profile review where I will go through their personal profile on the 12 top points for improvement, and then they get my 5 best tips and tricks, most of which we did not talk about today. In addition to that, anybody that wants to hire me for consulting I do 90-minute sessions for $250, and that can be face-to-face, that can be over Skype, conference call, whatever they are most comfortable with. For the first 10 listeners to your show that reach out to me, say they heard me on your show, they get that 90-minute session for $125.
Super. Well, thank you for that offer. That's awesome, and we will keep on using LinkedIn as a way to enhance personal and relational connections. I think that's the biggest thing that we can take away from this. So thank you so much for being on the show, Mike. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Mike, thank you for having me on.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.